Alright, so I want to do a quick recap on how completing the square works as well, because this didn't come up in the first exam, so you can, yeah, a lot of people are saying there's a very good chance of this coming up. So what I want to do is I want to quickly go over like a recap of how you do completing the square. So I want to show you how you do the completing the square for when, you got something like what we have here, like x squared plus 10x minus 3, but then also when the number in front of it isn't just like a 1, so say if you go like 3x squared plus 12x plus 27, or even if you've got like a negative in front of it. This kind of worries a lot of people, and they kind of just feel like, oh, what do I do now? In short, it's more or less the same anyway, but I also want to show you some exam style questions. So if you don't feel 100% confident as soon as I say this, how would you get that into completing the square form for each one of these? You need to pay attention basically, because this matters. So okay, here's the deal, right? Completing the square is another way of solving a quadratic. So you can see all of these are quadratics. So basically what happens is say you got x squared plus 10x minus 3 equals 0. You got to be comfy getting it into this kind of form. What would that be? Plus 22. I hope I haven't got that wrong, to be honest. I think I have got that wrong. Yeah, definitely got that wrong. But we'll see in a second what it is that I have to. No, my bad. So guys, mind blank there. Yeah, you need to know how to get it into that position. So, but imagine you knew how to get into this position. Can you see now we can just solve it like a normal equation? So we go x plus 5 squared equals 28. Now you would square root both sides. So you get x plus 5 equals square root of 28. Now, remember, every square root has two answers, so you've got to give your answer as a plus or minus. Okay? A lot of times they'll say give your answer in the form p plus or minus square root of q. That's where the plus or minus comes in. It's that bit there. And then you finally take away 5. And you always, because there's plus and minuses here, you put this minus 5 in front of the plus or minus. The reason for that being is now if you read that, it's quite clear, because you're like, oh, for one of the answers I need to do minus 5 plus root 28. On the other one I got to do minus 5 minus root 28. You don't want to write it as plus or minus 28 minus 5, because for the negative, someone's like, oh, this ain't to take away the whole thing. Basically, in short, just don't do it. Okay. But can you see how if you can get it in completing the square, you can just rearrange it to get your answer like this? Well, okay, so let's kind of learn how we kind of go about completing the square. So completing the square, it will actually tell you what form it wants it in this kind of form, yeah? So once it says x plus, if I kind of just bring another color in, yeah. It will always be in this form, okay? So it's like x plus something squared, add a number. So firstly, all we're doing is how would you write that in completing the square form? Well, the first things first, yeah, a is always going to be half of whatever that is. And let's think about a y, okay? So can you see, because to get x squared, obviously you're going to have x and x. But if you want to get 10x, can you see, you want to have half the number you want, because you get 5x here, that will give you 5x, that will give you 5x. That's how you get 10x. So you always want half of whatever, okay? So your starting answer is, it's going to be 5. Now, you've just got to, so it's almost like, this is what you have. Now, we just need to kind of then adjust by a number to get that. But let's kind of think what this would give us first. So right now we have x squared plus 5 times x squared plus 5. So this will give you x squared plus 10x plus 25. I know I'm not being incredibly clear. Now, we end up having a plus 25. We always get a plus. Even if this is a minus, by the way, this will still be a plus 25, because minus 5 times minus 5 equals plus 25. Now, we can do this in two ways. You can sort of look at it and say, okay, I have 25. I need to get to minus 3. So you could say, okay, well, if I take away 28, that'll do it. And that is one way of doing it. The smartest way, I think, because sometimes this can be a fraction, is to start by saying, okay, let me take away that 25 I have. So I get to neutral starting point. And now I want that minus 3. So now I can do the minus 3. Well, that's how I got it. And then I just join that together. Does that make sense? Yeah? So that's how you kind of complete the square. I know I kind of blabbed in the middle, but hopefully that was clear. So let's just kind of practice a few of these. If you feel clear, of course, feel free to kind of jump ahead. So let's say you had something like 16x minus 44. So what we start off by doing is we know immediately off the bat this is going to be x plus 8 squared. Okay, so a is sorted. And now let's kind of think, what do we have so far? So we've got x squared plus 16x plus 64, and we want minus 44. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to take away 64 from here. So that's gone. And now we want minus 44, so we're just going to do that as well. So that will kind of do. And now we just join these numbers together. So we've got x plus 8 squared minus 108. And that's our thing. That's complete the square. And it might kind of say, like, write this in form x plus 8 squared plus b squared or something. And see, it will say, like, the hence solve. Okay? Now, this one says or otherwise, so you could just literally shove that into a quadratic formula. But when a lot of questions will just say hence solve. When it says hence solve, you've got to use what you just kind of found here to solve the question. So it goes hence solve x squared plus 16x minus 44 equals 0. That means you've got equals 0. So, you know, let's get comfy with this. Equals 108. Square root it now. X plus 8 equals square root of 108. Don't forget the plus or minus. Yeah, now you take away 8, so you get minus 8 plus or minus square root 108. Sometimes this can break down, by the way. If you remember from SERS from the first time, you know, if you put that in, this actually becomes 6 root 3. Because sometimes it might kind of say, give your answer in form, and it might say like a plus or minus b root 3. And you're like, how the hell am I going to get root 3 from this? And it's just you have to break that down. And because you've got a calculator now, you could just literally type in 108 and type that into the calculator, click equals, and it'll just give it you. So there's that thing as well. Alright, does that make sense? Let me show you when the numbers aren't always nice, by the way, so I'll show you 2 more. X squared minus 6x plus 20. So for this one, you're going to need x minus 3 squared. You want that negative because that's what's going to give you the minus 6. Okay, so far we have x squared, we've got that minus 6x, we've got plus 9. So let's take away the 9, just get rid of that. And now we can add the 20 as well. So we add the 20, and we're done. There you go. Plus 11. And actually, you can't solve that, by the way, because if you had that equal to 0, can you see you'd get x minus 3 squared equals minus 11. You can't square root a negative number. Just thought I'd kind of throw that in. They're not obviously not going to give you a question you can't solve. But they might say, oh, hence show why this has no solutions. You just kind of get to square root of minus 11, say there are no, minus 11 square root doesn't exist. That's what I meant. Okay, just want to quickly show you as well. So you notice we always half it. So 10x goes to 5x. Yeah? 12x goes to 6x. But what if it's not an even number? So what if it's like 7x minus 2? And you want to try and get that in there. What you have to start by doing is you still have to half it. So that's going to be 7 over 2. Okay? So x plus 7 over 2. Yeah, 7 over 2. You can use decimals if you want now, especially if you've got a calculator, so you could write that's 3.5. But basically you're going to get x squared plus, 7 over 2, 7. That's how you get 7x. But plus, can you see, over here you're going to have 49 over 4. That's why I like to use kind of fractions. It's quite easy to do that. Otherwise, you could have, here you would have had it as x plus 3.5, x plus 3.5, you would have done it, you would have got x squared plus 7x, and you would have got what? 3.5 squared, you would have got plus 12.25. I normally hate, I normally hate it when people do it this way because they can't this isn't easy to do in the non-calculator, but because it's not calculated, it's not a big deal. So you can kind of go minus 49 over 2. You want this minus 2 as well, so that's, sorry, over 4, my bad. So that's gone, and then you take away 2. And just use your calculator to sort of bring this together. You could have also done minus 12.25 minus 2, and you could have got minus 14.4, sorry, 0.25. So that would have worked as well, but you could do it that way. And then just kind of shove that together. So if I get my, if I get the calculator out, yeah. So this one becomes 26 and a half. I'm flipping useless. You get the idea, right? Now let's have a look at a few different types of questions. Is it here? Yep. Okay, let's have a... Oh, goddammit. Let me just pick one, okay? So imagine you have like 3x squared plus 12x plus 30, and you want to get that into completing the square. Now, by the way, they'll tell you what form they want it, so it'll be, they'll kind of say, oh, maybe this will be the worst they'll do. Or they might be kind enough to actually tell you there's going to be 3 in front of it. Okay, something like that. Well, here's what you do. So we like to complete the square when it's x squared plus whatever, okay? So what you do is you take the 3 out. So you always take it out and make the bracket x squared plus whatever. So can you see this will become plus 4x plus 10. Now what you're going to do is you're going to complete the square on that, okay? That's what you're going to complete the square. So if I just go on the side here, if I have x squared plus 4x plus 10, if I complete this square on this, can you see I start with x plus 2, so I'm just doing exactly the same as I do. So that'll give me x plus 2, so I've got x squared plus 4x, I've got plus 4. So I will take away the 4, add the 10, which will give me overall plus 6. Okay, so that's how I complete the square for that. So then, you know, can you see I can kind of bring this back, and I've, inside here I've got x plus 2 squared plus 6. You know, if I do that actually in square bracket, that's probably nicer. And then I can just multiply out, so I could do that, so that would give me 3x plus 2 squared, and do that plus 18. Can you see I've got it in my complete the square form over there as well, so it's pretty damn lovely, isn't it? Okay, do one more of those, follow along with me, feel free to skip ahead if this feels pretty easy to you. Let's go for 2x squared plus 16x minus 20. Let's go for 18. Okay, and imagine kind of 2-part. Okay, so you've got to put that in form 2. It's always going to be 2 because it's you know, that's the number in front of it. Okay, and then it says b, hence solve 2x squared plus 16x minus 18. And actually, let's change the 18 for a second. Let's change it to minus 15. Minus 15 equals 0. So okay, so number one, here's what we do. We first take the 2 out of it. So we get x squared plus 8x minus, let's go for 7.5. I know most of you guys like the decimals. So if I just kind of deal with how I would do that, plus 8x minus 7.5. So I do x plus 4 squared, which give me x squared plus 8x. I get the plus 16, right? So I take away 16, and then I take away 17.5. So 6 minus 16, take away 7.5, 23.5. Okay, so there you go, I've got that. So now I can bring it back. Okay, and then if I just multiply it out finally, x plus 4, 23.5 times 2, 47. There you go. Okay, so that's how I've just completed the square on something like that. Now in the next bit, it would just be me kind of using this solution to do that. So obviously I'd add 47 to each side. So get to 2x plus 4 squared equals 47. Now I divide by 2. I don't square root yet, because I would also be squaring root in this 2, so I don't want a square root of 2 here, so I divide by 2 first. Now I square root. Plus or minus, and now I take away the 4. I'm done. Okay, so that's how this one works. Now let me show you the negative one. You know, people hate the negative one. There is absolutely nothing bad in it. Okay, there you go. So don't get, the only thing that kind of weirds people out is when they see that and they're like, oh, they can't see that it's completing the square. But the way you want to see that is that's minus x squared minus 10x plus 3. You always want to look at it as a quadratic, you know, with the x squared as first. And this form is weird. But essentially what they're saying is minus 1 x minus m squared plus n. That's what they want it. And even if you didn't know any better for that, here's what you're going to do. You want to be dealing with x squared, That's what you complete the square on. You got minus x squared. So what do? You take the minus out. You can think of that as a minus 1 if that helps. But basically what you do is this. Can you see that? So I've just taken the minus out because I always just want a normal thing. So now I just kind of try, I just complete the square on that on the side. Well, that's going to start with x plus 5 squared. And if I did the x plus 5, that would give me x squared plus 10x as I wanted, if I get the plus 25. So I want to take away 25. And I want to take away 3, so that gives me minus 28. And that's how I complete the square on that. So now if I bring this back in, I've got, and if I do that in a square bracket there, I've got x plus 5 squared minus 28. Now if I just bracket it out like I always do, so I've got minus x plus 5 squared plus 28. And that's the form which I want it in. So this n here is actually my 28. And this minus here, well, it's actually minus 5. Can you see that? Because it actually became a plus in the end, okay? But you just do it like this. Don't even worry about that. And then what it will kind of say is it's saying hence solve. So we're really just kind of taking what we just kind of found here, which is a minus x plus 5 squared plus 28 equals 0. Now you can do take away 28, but then you'll have a negative on this side and a negative on that side. That's fine. We can do it. I'll just do it both sides anyway. So you get minus 28. Now when you got negative there, you should times both sides by minus 1 here, just to get it to x plus 5 squared equals 28. I mean, the way I prefer it is I would just kind of like, you know, add this to both sides. So I kind of get 28 equals x plus 5 squared. I think that's so much nicer, which, you know, if at any time you can just kind of swap the sides. And now you're at the same position. And just to kind of finish, you square root it, plus or minus, and then you can take away 5. There you go. My fingers are locked up. Yep. And there you go, okay? So that's completing the square.